Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second Wedfuly webinar. We had so much success with our first one. We're doing it again. My name's Cass, and I am the head of operations here at Wedfuly and our resident virtual wedding expert. I'd love to quickly introduce who will be supporting me on this webinar today. First, from the Wedfuly team, we have my colleague, Colby.
Hi, everyone. My name is Colby. I am the head of customer success here at Wedfuly. I have been in the event industry for many years, and I've been lucky enough to help produce over 100 weddings here at Wedfuly, and I'm super excited to be here today.
Thanks, Colby. Do you want to tell everyone really quickly why we are in outer space?
So we're in outer space today. I hope you all love our amazing backgrounds. We actually used these for one of our weddings a couple weeks ago where they wanted us to be on the moon. So here we are. We're broadcasting this webinar from the moon today.
We are Wedfuly Space Force. So behind the scenes, we have our colleague Brianna, who is one of our amazing virtual coordinators. She's going to be helping out in the chat and in the QA. So if you have any questions while the Wedfuly team is talking, go ahead and leave them in either the chat or in the QA. Both should be in your lower toolbar if you are on a desktop computer. And we will be answering your questions throughout the webinar today. And then also at the end, we have dedicated Q&A time. And with that, we also have one of our past couples, a Wedfuly alumni couple. We have Kamillah and we have Stephan. Kamillah and Stephan, do you want to give us just a quick little wave? Thank you. And then let's get Stephan too. Let's get a wave from Stephan. Nice. Thank you both. They will be answering some questions, and they will also be telling us a little bit about their Wedfuly experience later today. So with that, over to Colby.
So we're so excited that all of you are joining us today. We're hoping you walk away from tonight having learned a little bit more about Wedfuly, how it works, and hopefully get all your questions answered. So here's what you can expect from this evening's webinar. We'll hear a little bit about how Wedfuly works, learn about the key players you'll need for your wedding, hear about the tech that you'll need to run a successful virtual wedding. We're going to talk about different types of weddings. There's all sorts of different types of weddings these days, so we'll dig into that a little bit. Give you some creative ideas for your virtual wedding. Kamillah and Stephan had some really cool creative ideas that they incorporated into their wedding. And then we're going to hear from them and hear about their wedding and hear what their experience was like. And then lastly, we're going to leave plenty of time for Q&A for the Wedfuly team and for Kamillah and Stephan as well. And I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Cass.
Thank you so much, Colby. So let's talk a little bit about how it works. Wedfuly has to date done 600 virtual weddings. So we consider ourselves experts in the field, and no two are exactly alike. We really pride ourselves in being able to translate your wedding vision into reality, and we'll work with you to create a wedding that was everything you've ever wished for and more. Some Wedfuly weddings include in-person guests, which we would consider this to be a combo of both virtual and in-person. We call this a hybrid wedding. So maybe you have, 10, 20 people on site with you, and then you have like 100 plus virtually. While other types of weddings may be fully virtual. So maybe it's just you and your partner and your on-site contact, and then all of your guests, all of your friends, family, loved ones are on Zoom. So again, it's really up to you to decide what works best for you. Some weddings consist of elaborate interactive elements or religious and cultural traditions, while others are really just short and sweet. Again, it's up to you to decide what is the best representation of the two of you as a couple. Our team will be with you to walk through every step of the process and clearly lay out all that you and your partner need to know and what you need to do to make your Wedfuly wedding a success. In total, you will meet with your Wedfuly coordinator 5 times. So you'll have 2 planning calls, 1 AV call, 1 rehearsal call, and then the wedding itself. And we like to suggest that both the AV and the rehearsal call happen the week of the wedding. So Tuesday before, if you're getting married on a Saturday or a Sunday, or even if you're really getting married on a Friday, the AV call would happen on Tuesday, and then the rehearsal call would happen the day before your wedding. I get asked all the time, how long does it take to plan a virtual wedding? And a good rule of thumb is 6 weeks. So from the time you book and pay with us, you'll have 6 weeks to iron out all the details and meet with your coordinator those 5 times.
So now I'm going to talk about some of the key players for your wedding. You and your partner will, of course, be the stars of your wedding day. However, there are a few other people who will help honor and celebrate your love to ensure that the virtual wedding goes off without a hitch. So I'm going to talk about all of these people that will be helping your wedding. So the first one is your virtual coordinator from Wedfuly. So as Cass mentioned, your coordinator is going to be there every step of the way to help you with your virtual wedding planning journey. They will be your trusted resource the entire way, along with running your wedding on the actual day of your wedding. They're always just an email away, and as Cass mentioned, you're going to have several calls with them throughout the planning process, even if you're planning it in 2 weeks or 2 months. The other really important person is your on-site contact. And trust us when I say that this person is key to making sure your wedding goes so smoothly. Since we are 100% virtual, our team will not be there on site to assist with any tech setup. Your on-site contact is going to be the one that is making sure that everything is going smoothly in person. We're going to be on the phone with them the entire duration of your wedding most of the time, and your on-site contact is going to be pretty imperative to making sure that things are going smoothly. So we always say, choose that tech savvy friend or family member who has good communication skills and isn't in the wedding party. They're really going to be our eyes and ears during the wedding. So we don't want them standing and being a part of the wedding itself. So pick that friend or family member that always returns your text message right away, and their phone is always charged. That person is going to be your good go-to to be your on-site contact. And they ideally can join some of our phone calls. That way we can all get on the same page and make sure that we are running a successful virtual wedding. Another person would be your officiant, another really important key player in your wedding. So they will officiate your wedding ceremony. Keep in mind, in most places, you have to have at least one officiant in person. In some states, it's actually legal to have your officiant be virtual. So it just kind of depends on the actual county you live in. It typically comes down to. And then lastly, there's a slew of other vendors that you could have that are participating in your wedding. So you could have, your florist, you could have a DJ, you could have a caterer, you could have your photographer, videographer. Those are just some examples of many other vendors that could potentially be participating in your wedding and be an important part of your day.
Nice. Thank you so much, Colby. So let's talk about the tech that's needed. This is always one of the top questions that we get is, how does this all work? And we realize that this is a new medium for most people. And so we've got it pretty dialed in. So let me share with you my hot tips. So the first thing is you need video equipment. Your video equipment allows your guests to see the wedding and allows you to see your guests if you want. This can be a combination. So we're going to use cameras. So it's going to be a combination of phones, a laptop. You could use iPads. There's multiple different ways and combinations that you can use for this. We use phones for cameras. We typically like to have 2 or more cameras delivering different angles of your wedding. So you can think of each camera as an angle. So if you have 3 cameras, you'd have maybe a ceremony view, and 2 vow cameras aimed on one another. Any device that's able to be connected to Zoom can be used as a camera for your wedding. But we highly recommend using smartphones for your cameras. So any newer iPhone 8 Plus and newer would be great. Newer Androids, newer Pixel phones, those all work best. External webcams and GoPros can be used, and the video quality can be very nice. But it's important to realize that the Zoom stream is only 720p. So keep that in mind. There's we've had couples, use digital DSLRs in the past, but sometimes you sacrifice quality when going that route. So it's just important to have a full understanding on how your GoPro or how your external camera works and how it hooks into Zoom. So I would suggest just doing some research to make sure that it's something that you and your on-site contact can handle. And then we have the magic speaker. We love this thing. It's called an eMeet, and it acts as both a speaker and a microphone. You can get it on Amazon, or you can rent a rental package from us that has a combination of the eMeet and tripods. This connects to just one of your devices, and this provides clear audio for you and your guests. So a lot of our couples will put this up at the ceremony area, on a cocktail table or some type of smaller table, and it's two ways, so we can hear you and you can hear us as well when we speak through it. So I mentioned tripods. You'll need a tripod for holding each device steady. You can find these fairly cheap online, but you definitely do not want to be that wedding where the tripod face plants mid-ceremony because the wind blew it over. So I think anything around like the $50 price point per tripod is like higher quality. Regardless of what kind of tripod you use, make sure it does have a phone adapter on the top. You can buy that typically separately from the tripod. And again, you can rent this all from us as well. And then battery packs. So we want to avoid any devices dying mid-wedding. So we recommend purchasing portable battery packs that can be plugged into each of your devices, so each of your phones, and then you can simply like zip tie them or duct tape them to the tripod so they're not like dangling. But that will allow us to ensure that nothing is going to be dying mid ceremony or mid reception. And then I mentioned earlier, allowing you to see your guests and your guests to see you. We've had a lot of couples who have plugged in a monitor, a projector, at their ceremony area or at their reception area. So, when we get to fun elements like a group dance, you can see everybody dancing. Or if we're doing, virtual toasts, you can see the individuals who are toasting you. We recommend a small projector if you're indoors, that'll work totally fine. And then a small TV, I think like 30 inches would be great, and you can just set that outside. All you need is a laptop. You're going to take that laptop, you're going to plug it into that device via an HDMI cable. And that's how you'll be able to see some of your guests. It'll only show the first page of the gallery view, which is around 25 icons. So it's just something to keep in mind. Last but certainly not least, the internet. So you have two options here. You can do cellular data or you can do Wi-Fi. You need to have a strong internet connection to have a successful virtual wedding. We recommend a minimum of 5 megabytes up. That is the base minimum that we need. Anything below that, and we're not going to be starting off on the right foot. You can go to speedtest.net, or you can even simply go to Google and just type in speed test. Google has their own speed test. It's very, very easy. You can do that on your phone, or you can do that on an iPad or a laptop. But the most important thing is you want to be in your exact ceremony location when you run that speed test. And if you decide to work with Wedfuly, which we hope you do, you can send us the results of your speed test. You can screenshot it, what the upload and download speeds are, and we can advise you on ways to improve that if that's the path that we need to go down. So if you have any questions about technology, please leave them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we will address them later.
Thanks, Cass. So now we're going to talk about some different types of weddings. First up is a hybrid wedding. So what is a hybrid wedding? You might be asking yourself. So some Wedfuly weddings would be considered hybrid. This is a combination of virtual and in-person guests. A lot of our weddings these days are falling into this category. So a hybrid wedding can have anywhere from 50 to 150 people on site, maybe even more, with an additional 50 to 100 people via Zoom. There isn't really an exact science on how you're splitting the virtual and on-site guests, but We love it when our couples can give their guests the option of being virtual or in person. Maybe you really do want to attend, but you can't travel because of work that weekend, but then you still feel like you're not missing out because you get to attend via Zoom. So why do we love them? For the reasons I just stated, we love that it doesn't limit your guest list at all. You can have people in person, you can have people virtually. No one feels like they're being left out at all. You also still get this amazing feel of having an intimate wedding, but you're not cutting your guest list. Like I mentioned, everyone is still on Zoom. They are sitting right there with you, but you still get to have this intimate feeling of maybe like an elopement. Everyone is winning in this sort of situation. No one feels like they're left out at all. So we're seeing more and more hybrid weddings this year. It's becoming increasingly popular as we move into a vaccinated post-COVID world. So we're seeing a lot of these on the Wedfuly side.
So a little bit differently than what Colby was talking about. So she was speaking specifically to hybrid. I'm going to talk about micro weddings. So a micro wedding is a small wedding with less than 50 people on site. So 50 people or less in person. We love them because you can get married at a more unique, affordable venue. We're seeing a lot of venues cater to this. So, maybe you don't want to give up the venue of your dreams, but those types of venues are offering these smaller packages for you that are maybe only 2 hours instead of booking 6 hours. And we love that because it's extremely budget friendly. Micro weddings open more doors to these unique venues since your overall guest count is smaller. So you can really try to think outside the box here. And we know that the wedding industry is fueled a lot by what you see in inspiration images on publications or on Pinterest, or maybe you have been dreaming of this day your whole life and you have something in mind of what you want. This is a less expensive way to have that wedding, that Pinterest, Instagram worthy wedding that you've been dreaming of. One of our colleagues and one of our past brides, Emily, she had what I would call a micro wedding, and it was very Instagram, Pinterest worthy. That's her on the right-hand side. So she planned this wedding in 3 months, got married at her aunt's house, which was in Vail, Colorado. So beautiful background. She used the majority of her budget on floral and decorations. She had a really lovely floral arch, which really framed the scene. And florals always translate very well into virtual world. And then she had a sit down catered dinner for 30 people. And it came in with all in, I'm talking photography, food, booze, everything under 10K, which I think is really good. It's very budget friendly.
So another type of wedding would be a fully virtual wedding. So this would be where all of your guests are on Zoom except for you and your partner and maybe your officiant. Like I mentioned earlier, in some places you can actually have your officiant virtual. So it could just potentially be you and your partner. So this can have that feel of an elopement where you're going down to a beautiful venue and you're getting married, but you still have everyone there, right there with you on Zoom. So this has that super intimate feel. And as you can see in these photos, these are 2 weddings that we did in the past where it was an elopement style, but they had, over 100 people on Zoom. So this one on the left actually is a couple that I worked with, Danielle and Scott. They had actually originally planned a large wedding and they decided to keep their original venue and turn it into a fully virtual wedding. So they, as Cass mentioned, these flower arches really do translate really beautifully into a virtual setting. So they decided to go for it. And they had this beautiful flower arch, an amazing backdrop, and they did not feel like they were missing out on anything. They had their beautiful photos, but they had everyone right there with them. And then now I'm going to talk about some creative ideas and ways you can add in your own personal touch into your virtual wedding. There's so many different unique and creative things that you can do that maybe you wouldn't have been able to do in your original wedding plans, but you can incorporate into this type of wedding. So first one, make it engaging. This isn't a typical work Zoom live stream. We encourage all of our couples to engage with your guests. That's a big part of what we do. We want our couples to feel like they're engaging with their guests a lot throughout their wedding. And this can be done through multiple different ways. We have virtual reception tables that you can do, surprise video. We have lots of other add-ons that we have as a part of our additions to our packages that can really make it feel like you're being super engaged with your guests. Get personal. So incorporate moments throughout the wedding that are super personal to the two of you. So think personalized branding, engagement photos, music that is super special and important to the two of you, record videos. There's really like no limit to the possibilities for incorporating personal touches into your wedding. Kamillah and Stephan, our couple that are on here, actually, they did an amazing job incorporating a lot of personal touches into every piece of their wedding, and it really showed through in the guest experience. It was really fun. So trivia is super fun. We've done that a lot in a lot of weddings. It really keeps, people are laughing. It keeps people really at the edge of their seats having a good time. A selfie moment is something that's even fun, where the couple can be in camera view and all the guests can take a selfie with the couple. Creating a signature cocktail is super fun, where we've seen everyone have the same cocktail that's attending the wedding from all different locations across the world. And everyone drinks the cocktail together at the wedding. It's really fun and creative. So there's so many fun ways you can incorporate your own personal touches into your wedding. And all of our Wedfuly coordinators have had experience doing all sorts of different things for all sorts of different weddings. So even if you decide to book a wedding with us and you're like, I want to do something fun and cool, but I'm not entirely sure what that is, our team can help you come up with a great idea that would work great for your guests.
I actually really love the kiss cam. I had a past couple who came up with that idea. So fun. And the selfie moment as well. Those are both amazing ideas that came from past weddings that we've done where it's worked so well. We just roll it into as suggestions for any weddings in the future. So now I'd love to pass the mic over to Kamillah and Stephan to share their experience.
Hi, everybody. So I mean, like, where do I even start? Honestly, it was amazing working with Wedfuly. Stephan and I went out on Stephan's sailboat one night and ended up being out there for way longer than we anticipated. And we started talking about wedding planning. And we'd been engaged for maybe like 2 years. And then, obviously it was the pandemic time. And we felt like if we waited until this year, 2021, we were going to be competing against other people to, have an actual space for all the people that we wanted, amongst other things. And Stephan had this amazing idea of, oh, well, we could make our wedding global and have different friends from all over the world attend. And so we started to create a list at that very moment of like what we would want to do if we had a virtual wedding. And so we took to, trying to find different wedding coordinators who could potentially help us with it. But no one really had the expertise to manage things virtually the way we wanted them to. Most of the people that we found were really people who were going to be there, like actually on site. And it was going to cost us a ton of money. And we were still going to have to get somebody else to manage the virtual side of things. However, one of our wedding coordinators who we connected with told us about Wedfuly and said, well, this sounds like it would actually work for you all. So we went on the website and it literally was everything that we'd written down plus so much more. So I'll let Stephan talk about, his feelings on that a little bit.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So just to add a bit more context and a few more details there. So Kamillah and I, we were not seeing eye to eye on our wedding plan for a while. She wanted something small, intimate, close friends and family. I wanted a huge wedding and to invite everybody, who I cared about from every corner of life. And, on one hand, it was cost prohibitive to go that route. On the other hand, there were certain people we definitely wanted to involve, but, would have been challenging to do that with a smaller wedding. And then we couldn't agree on the location, the pandemic. There were all these obstacles and areas that we disagreed on. And a virtual wedding actually was the perfect happy medium. One, it allowed us to not delay our marriage anymore, since we had, for our own reasons, delayed it enough. I'll just leave that at that. But it allowed us that opportunity to have a cost-effective wedding that was still amazing. It was different than what I had, I guess, imagined, but it was so great in so many ways that I didn't realize. And one of those was that it really allowed us to bring everyone in during a really rough time. We got married on January 8th this year. And there were some very key people who were able to be involved in a significant way, whereas if it wasn't a virtual wedding, that wouldn't have been possible. Point in case, my only sister lives in Australia. She gave a speech live from Australia. My nieces were flower girls from Australia. My best man is a traumatic brain injury survivor, and he's disabled, and he was able to be a part of it and give a speech from Maryland, whereas he probably wouldn't have been able to be in person otherwise. And the thing too was, after we talked to a lot of our guests after, they're really blown away. They're like, I've been on nothing but Zoom for an entire year, and yet I felt like that was a real wedding, and I even woke up kind of hungover too. So a really genuine experience for them, and actually striking that happy medium of an intimate experience, right? With everyone getting that same front row seat from the view, from the Zoom rather, while also being massive, because we had over 500 people from, help me out here, Kamillah, I think
So it
30.
was all 7 continents, at least 26 different states. I'm forgetting some
And
of
10
the,
countries.
there we
10
go.
countries.
There we go. But no, I would add to, what you said, the real happy medium was really that it allowed us to bring our views together. So in person, it was just, my mom and daughter, Stephan's cousin, and his cousin was actually our director of the day. His dad is the one who actually married us over Zoom, which was awesome. We were able to bring in our own cultural dynamics into it. So Stephan is Haitian and Jewish, whereas I am African American and Native American. So we got married under a chuppah. We tied the knot. We also jumped over the broom, in addition to Stephan stepping on the glass, all of which, to Stephan's point, everybody got to have a front row seat, whereas usually at a wedding, you wouldn't get to see that. And, in that capacity, at least, and up close and personal. In addition to, having it virtual, it really did allow us to, be able to go back and see everything, because, usually at a wedding, you're so caught up in what's happening. You have no chance to see what's going on with everybody else. And I can't tell you how many times we've now rewatched the recording of the entire wedding, just being like, oh my God, look at this person, look at that person. Like, oh, I didn't even know they came. Like, and it was just amazing, honestly.
So I do have to say, you two, like, your guests were so much fun. Like, they just they were just having a blast. But I'm curious to know, what were your favorite moments of the wedding? You incorporated a lot of really cool, unique things into your wedding, but what was, like, maybe each of you, what was your favorite moment?
I think my favorite moment was probably, well, of course, it's getting married, right? That's my sweetheart. But no, the trivia part was actually really fun. So we had a trivia during our wedding, where one of my bridesmaids was kind of like the host of it. And so, we'd sent, like, I don't know, 30 different questions over to her and Colby. Colby was our coordinator, by the way. If you didn't figure that out already, of course. But so we sent over questions that we thought could be interesting, and I think Colby told her to narrow it down to 10 of them. And so she picked 10 questions. So we had no idea what they were going to be. And it was just hilarious to see, like, I don't know if you all have ever heard of like the shoe game. So usually at weddings, sometimes they, you hold up a shoe and you think it's, one person or the other. So we did that virtually, but we allowed our guests to actually, choose their options in the poll on Zoom. And it was hilarious to see some of the things like, one of the questions was, oh, who do you think, said I love you first? And everybody, of course, thought it was me, but it was actually Stephan. So it was interesting things like that. Or like, who do you think's the most stubborn? Who do you think's going to throw up tonight? Like it was hilarious. And then of course, our banter back and forth made it that much more fun.
Yeah, the trivia was a lot of fun. But what I think my favorite part outside of, really just the two of us and the vows and like that whole moment for the party aspect was the group dance. The group dance was awesome. So we had a good friend of ours, DJ Louis Bagels, DJ from California live, and he got everybody moving. And, just seeing, because, we couldn't see everyone on the Zoom, so we weren't sure who made it, what people were wearing. So like, it was this great surprise for us just to see all of our friends and family come on the camera from every area of our lives, which was just a ton of fun. And we were dancing the whole time. The surprise video was also really, really well put together.
Yeah.
Funny, meaningful, surprising, really kind of the whole gamut of happy emotions there. So yeah, I think the group dance and the video, and then also the speeches, like really made it feel like our guests were there with us.
So basically the whole thing, Stephan. No.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that sounds like your whole wedding. But I do have to say, like, those parts of your wedding were pretty amazing. The trivia was so fun. Like, you two were just like cracking up the whole time. Your guests were really engaged. It was a blast. So to wrap it up, I'd love to hear just like a rough cost analysis of how much you all spent on your wedding.
Yeah. And I also saw in the chat that someone wrote about like, what was the surprise video? So the surprise video was really like, once we submitted our guest list to Colby, she had us go through and select people who we potentially wanted to email to ask to be a part of this video. So I don't know how long the video was, because it was truly a surprise. All we did was tell Colby the people, and she reached out to them and, prompted them to say a few words or whatever. So people said all types of things. And so it was like a 10-minute video or something like that of different guests. I want to say at least 30 people were in it, giving us well wishes, toasting to us, sending us love. So people danced, like all types of things. And it was really cute for everybody to watch it, for them to also get to be a part of the wedding. And we've also watched that video like 50 times too.
Yours was also really cute. Your friends were really creative. It was a great video.
Thanks. It was very well put together. Mm-hmm. But to your question about the cost analysis piece, though, Colby, so really and truly, Wedfuly was a good chunk of it. However, it wasn't the most. More or less, we spent about $10,000 all in all. And like that includes the cake, that includes renting out the restaurant, that included Wedfuly, that included the decorator, that included also, the hotel that we stayed in after. So it was very cost efficient in comparison to what, one would usually spend on a wedding. This also included the dress, Stephan's tux, which was, tailor-made, amongst other things. Stephan, am I missing anything?
No, but I'm also going to share that our guests were extremely generous in our registry cash fund, and we actually brought in more in the way of gifts than we spent on the entire wedding.
Yeah. So as a means of truly being virtual, we went virtual with everything. We decided not to have people, send us actual gifts or set up a registry like that. Instead, we set up cash funds. So we had one that was called Fun in the Sun, and then one was like our honeymoon fund. So during the wedding, Colby and her team actually, kept, sharing the registry link in the chat, and we had already sent it out in like the links that we sent to people to register for the wedding. And like Stephan said, people were very generous with their cash donations. It worked out for sure. I would add, oh my gosh, I feel like Stephan. The whole thing was amazing. The other part that was really cool that Colby and her team were able to do for us was actually use this thing on like Google Maps to actually have our guests share their location and then plot their location. Colby and her team plotted the locations on a map for us, so we could actually see every single continent and state and country that everybody was calling in from, which was really nice. And she showed it at the end to everybody too, so they could see, which was cool.
Right. So that started with an idea and ended with a world record, thanks to
Yeah, did you break the world record? Is it official?
No, they told us that it can't be broken, so it doesn't count for
it doesn't meet Guinness's standards because it can't be broken because there aren't more than 7 continents. But you know, we're still pretty proud, and we'll chalk that up to you know, a little slice of history.
Well, thank you so much, both of you, for being here today, telling us a little bit about your wedding. I loved working with you. Your wedding was so special and amazing. So we appreciate you both being here, but hang tight. We're gonna open it up to Q&A now. And if any of you have questions for Kamillah and Stephan, go ahead and leave them in the chat now, and we'll let them answer some questions along with the Wedfuly team.
I think we have a couple questions that came in while you all were talking. So let's get our lovely Brianna, another one of our virtual coordinators.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We're going to go into our Q&A section, and we're going to answer some questions that I already answered a few, but I'd love for our coordinators to get a little more in depth on these questions themselves and what they've experienced as well. To start, we had a question from Hannah who talked about us mentioning that sometimes having people on site, there's only 10 to 20. What if you have more than like 80 or to 100, especially as we're moving into this less of a COVID world? How do you make sure that they are experiencing as much as they can and still having a great experience on site while also entertaining your virtual guests?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So, like we said earlier, there's not like a perfect recipe to how to do a split between virtual and on-site. So it's really, I think it starts with giving your guests the option. So that's where it begins, right? Giving guests the options to pick, do they want to be on-site, or do they in person, or do they want to be virtual? What we've seen work really great in the past for those virtual guests is just making the extra effort to make sure that they do feel included. So we talked about the group dance earlier. That is a great way to help make your virtual guests feel included. We're able to Jumbotron spotlight them within their homes and get them, like I also mentioned earlier, like maybe you get a monitor or a TV or a projector. You can see all of that happening live right before your eyes. Also toasts. So Stephan mentioned earlier, I believe you said it was your sister that was in Australia who gave a virtual toast for you. Like, what a special way to make your family feel included, like they are still there with you, and we're spotlighting, you know, that person in their home from the comfort of their home, but they're able to speak to you directly. And it's just like a really nice way to make those important people in your life feel included.
I love that, Cass. Thank you so much for that answer. And going to our couple themselves as well, we have a question for the two of you. How did you decide who was going to be in person versus not, who was going to be virtual? That etiquette piece is stumping one of our attendees, and it's hard to draw a line in that way. So we'd love to know some of your advice on how you did that.
Yeah, so, you know, originally, because of COVID, we had only planned to have Stephan's parents, my mom and daughter, and my grandma and grandpa in person, in addition to his cousin, who was our on-site director. However, the day before our wedding, we found out that my grandparents actually tested positive for COVID. So we had to scramble and try to get everything, shifted around and make sure his dad could marry us over Zoom, because his parents weren't comfortable being in person after that. So it ended up just being Stephan, myself, my mom and my daughter, and his his cousin, who's the on-site coordinator. But more or less how we originally decided was, obviously just having our immediate families be a part of it, so as not to make any of our friends or anything like that feel left out. And of course, there were still people who were like, oh, I want to be there, and, all of these other things. But once it was explained, around COVID, as well as around the fact that it was our immediate family, people kind of got it. In addition to Stephan and I had also shared with our guests, that we plan on having, at least 4 small get-togethers, like parties, if you will, to celebrate our marriage, so that people can come in person later on in the year once things are safe to do so.
And I would also, I just want to highlight that the fact that we had that COVID scare, and thankfully Kamillah's grandparents are okay. They actually didn't have symptoms. But if that was anything but a virtual wedding, it would have totally derailed us, because my dad was the officiant. And yes, we had to scramble and shift a lot of things around, but we made it work. And so that is a really significant piece of that. And I would also add where it can become kind of sticky around, etiquette with who's being included and on what level. Something that our virtual wedding also allowed us to do was to have a gigantic wedding party. I think we had 13 people each, which admittedly is my doing, since I would have had a really hard time picking maybe 5 or 6 people. But with the virtual aspect, I was able to really have, a dozen of my closest friends, and I have a lot of really close friends that were able to, have that special honor on our wedding day.
Those are great answers, both of you. Thank you so much for your honesty and being able to explain to everyone how you find that boundary and how you find that line. I know it's difficult, but that is some great advice. We have a question that came in about how do you position cameras so that all eyes are on the couple? We plan to do a video only for the ceremony and may not do a reception piece.
Yeah, good question. So we have a couple different ways you can set up cameras, but we always have one camera that is right on the main ceremony. So we call it the main ceremony camera. So that's the one we're going to use almost the entire time that the ceremony is happening. If you're only going to have a ceremony, then I would suggest adding a couple camera angles, and our team will happily walk you through which camera angles we suggest. In the event we're just doing a ceremony, we would have I would suggest having a camera zoomed in on each of your faces, bow camera. So that way, when each of you are speaking to each other, we can really have close in shots of your emotion and how you're feeling in the ceremony. And people feel like they're sitting right there with you. Kamillah and Stephan have mentioned that multiple times, that all their guests had like the best seat in the house because they all were right front and center with them. So we will always have cameras that are right on the couple. We always suggest having a couple that are zoomed in on them. And then we will also have a camera that's on the aisles. We will see everyone's entrances as part of the processional as well. So especially if you're just having a ceremony, we will make sure that there are some like really beautiful shots. So that way your recording looks great in the end.
Amazing, Colby. Thank you so much. I think it's an awesome thing to point out is the fact that your guests virtually get to have an even more exclusive and intimate view of the two of you that they may not get at an in-person ceremony and reception. So it's a special way to highlight them and highlight the both of you for that day. Great, on to our next question. What about bilingual weddings? Is there an issue or does that require anything additional to our package itself?
I can take that.
I will
Cass,
take
go
it.
ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay, I'll take it. So we've done a lot of bilingual weddings in the past. We utilized closed captioning as an option. That's a feature through Zoom. We've had translators also on the Zoom call as well. We also have a Spanish speaking team member who can also participate in the wedding as well and help support. She's helped us translate. We have a tech talk that we do in the very beginning. So she's helped us translate and record that into Spanish. And we have emails that we send pre and post wedding. We also have Spanish versions of those as well. So I think the headline here is like, it's not a problem. We have translators in our network that we can use. We have the closed captioning option, and we'll just work with you to figure out what is the best solution so all of your guests can have the accessibility for your wedding.
Great. Thank you so much, Cass. On to our next question. We would like to know, could you tell us a little bit more about the add-ons that we offer, specifically ones that really pull engagement from your guests virtually? I want to add on to this question, add-ons that can both be for your virtual guests, but maybe for your in-person guests as well, to kind of bring them all together.
Yeah, so we have a lot of add-ons that we offer to our couples, and I would say most of our couples take advantage of those add-ons because they, as Kamillah and Stephan mentioned, the surprise video is hands down, I think it is our most popular add-on because it really does incorporate the virtual guests and the in-person guests together in a way that you probably wouldn't be able to have in a different scenario. So we've got videos that are coming in from different friends and family members, and our team is cutting that into one beautiful cohesive video, giving the couple wedding advice, telling funny stories, and it turns out to be an amazing surprise. We don't show it to them until their wedding day. So that one is an amazing piece to keep people engaged, and it also gets them involved in the wedding pre-wedding, right? I'm sending them emails ahead of the wedding, asking them to submit videos with us. I'm engaging with them. So it's a fun way for the guests to know like, oh my gosh, I'm submitting this video. They don't get to see it till their wedding day, and it's super fun. Another great engaging add-on would be our virtual reception tables. So if any of you have used the breakout room feature on Zoom, we use that and call it virtual reception tables. So all the guests would be split up into tables as though you were having an in-person reception, same type of way you would think about your friends and family members. And then the newlyweds would stop by each virtual reception table and say hi. So they would be stopping by the room, saying hello to their guests in a smaller setting. You get to engage with them a little bit more. You know, if you have 200 people on Zoom, it's hard to engage with them as a larger group. But when you break it down into smaller tables, you actually get to like talk to your cousins that attended from Canada that you haven't been able to see in a year and a half. So it's a great way to really engage with your guests. So those are two of our most popular add-ons, especially when you're thinking about engagement with your guests. So we do have several other add-ons that aren't as focused on engagement with your guests, but that can add that like personal touch to your wedding. So maybe like a slideshow, other video aspects that we can put together for you. But the surprise video, Kamillah's like smiling as I'm like talking about it because it is really fun and it's really cute. Back to you, Brianna. Any other questions for us?
That is it on our end. So I'm going to pass it to Cass to close us out.
Thanks so much, everyone. I want to thank our Wedfuly alumni couple, Kamillah and Stephan. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy today. And thank you for being a part of this awesome journey together. This was awesome. I want to offer everyone who's on the call tonight $100 off your virtual wedding. So if you go to the Wedfuly website and you sign up and you get ready to pay, you can put in the code WEDinar, WEDinar, into our checkout page, and we will credit you $100 back on your virtual wedding, or you can even put that towards an add-on if you'd like. If you need any help on that, we're going to post in the chat our email, our help address, which is help@Wedfuly, and our website. And then
something cool that is an option for you all is if you want to talk to Kamillah and Stephan one-on-one on like a more intimate setting and maybe ask them more direct questions about their specific experience, you can do that. So they are part of our Wedfuly alumni group. We have several couples who are part of this group, and they do calls for us. They answer your questions and they are frontline support, and we love them for that. So we'll post the link that you can book a call with them directly. And then we've been hard at work on our YouTube page. We've got a lot of real wedding footage, a lot of highlight reels. So that's an add-on. We're posting our highlight reels on there. So you can go through, you can watch the highlight reels of past couples that we've worked with. And I'll have Kamillah and Stephan's up there. So thank you again, everyone.